Hello guys, welcome to today's video. It is very late at night. I just finished putting the kids to bed. So if I look tired, it is because I am. It's just the end of a very long day. But I wanted to hop on here and kind of share a little bit about this pregnancy and just update you guys on what you've missed, update you on the first trimester, what it's looked like. I'm 15 weeks pregnant. I turned 15 weeks yesterday. And obviously, since I waited until week 14 to tell you guys the news, there's like a lot of stuff that I wanted to just kind of, just chat with you guys about if you guys are interested. And then I know that there's so many of you guys who are also pregnant alongside me, which congratulations, by the way. It's super exciting. See if maybe some of our symptoms, first trimester symptoms, are the same, or like maybe you have experienced something that's different. So we're gonna kind of chat about that in a very casual way. I forgot about a lot of this stuff clearly, like it's been a while. So there's just like a lot of stuff that I forgot happens to your body, and it's been real fun to say the least. So of course I wanted to thank you guys because this is the first time me filming since I actually posted that video. Thank you to everybody who sent me super sweet messages, and just to see how excited you guys are about this and our family growing. It warms my heart. Like, that's so corny to say, but like I don't know what else to say. It makes me so happy that you guys are also equally as excited and that you're here for this pregnancy content and you're here to just kind of follow along. I always hoped that I would get here. I made no secrets. I wasn't a secret that I hoped, if it was up to me, that we would have a third baby. So I feel just very blessed that that is where we're at. So I'll also show you a bump shot, because I did it in the, announcement video. I feel very large right now. It's after dinner, and after dinner, my belly expands to no end. And I don't know, today I have literally felt like a blimp all day, and my belly's kind of getting hard and tight, and I don't know. I'm like, if this is me already at 15 weeks, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. I don't know how I'm gonna make it full term. So just praying that everything goes well. So let's backtrack. Let's talk about the very first symptoms of this pregnancy. So when I found out, again, I had missed my period for a few days, took the pregnancy test, and then it was positive. My very first symptom with the pregnancy was my boobs and how much they hurt. It was painful. And to this day, they are still painful. And I forgot just how much that can happen. When I talk about painful boobs, please tell me if your boobs also hurt when you're pregnant. The only way for me to describe it, because Joe, of course, he wants access to my boobs, and I'm like, please don't touch me because they hurt so much. And he doesn't get it. And I'm like, it literally feels like somebody took a syringe and injected my breasts with cement. And I don't know how else to explain it. They just feel like they're full of cement, and they are hard, and they just hurt. They are heavier than normal. I did forget how much they grow, and I like the fact that they have grown. I have to get some new bras because my normal bras, my Soma bras that I love so much, I am coming out of them. I'm wearing one right now, and there's a lot of cleavage happening. So I'll probably have to go up a size or get a pregnancy bra. I don't know. But yeah, that was my very first thing that I was like, okay, I know that this is happening because my boobs are literally on fire. And I thought that it would go away after a while. But like I said, here I am at 15 weeks, and that is still going very strong. So I don't know if that's going to go away. I remember with one of my other pregnancies, I can't remember now if it was with Jackson or with Riley, that I also had the really sore boobs. But I don't remember it lasting so long. So whatever, that's kind of what I've been going through in terms of my boobs. Not that anybody asked, but that is something to be aware of. So after that happened, I do remember I got the flu the same day that I tested positive for pregnancy. I also tested positive for the flu. If you're new here, by the way, and if you missed that announcement, by the way, if you just stumbled across this video, how rude, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Kayla, by the way. You can subscribe, be my friend. This baby's due July 30th. So if you want to stick around for some pregnancy content, you are more than welcome to do so. But yes, I tested positive for the flu. So there was an element of are some of these symptoms flu related, or are they pregnancy related? So there was kind of a question about that for a little bit. But I was super tired, exhausted. When I tell you that the first few weeks of this pregnancy, I don't know how I kept my eyes open. Like, it was that bad. And like, I'm not the kind of person that takes naps in the day. Even if I wanted to, I cannot. I have like a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're home with me all day. So naps are pretty hard to come by. And even when I can take naps, like I'm very like, you know, anxious, and I'm like, let me get stuff done instead of taking a nap. But I could not keep my eyes open. It was so hard. And I'm really thankful actually that when that real fatigue kicked in, that's when I was down in Miami with my parents. So when I was at my mom's house, like there were days that I would get to my mom's house because we were staying at a hotel, and I'd drive to my mom's house. I spent like one full day, I remember, like I just got to her house. She started watching the kids. I went to the couch. I passed out and I slept the whole day. Like the whole day, I think it was like 4:30. I woke up and I'm like, have I really just been sleeping here on the couch? Like, very weird. You like, when you are pregnant and you are growing a human inside of you, it takes a toll on your body and you get tired. So I don't know if it's that, like, this is my 3rd pregnancy. I'm 32 years old. I'm older. I have less energy. I'm sure that plays into it a little bit, but I've just been super tired. And so now I feel like I'm finally getting some of that energy back. But I still get very like winded, like even in this video, like I've been talking to you guys now for what, like 6 minutes about, I'm already like tired. I'm already like, I feel like I ran a marathon and literally I'm sitting on a chair and just chatting with you guys. So I get really winded, and that's why like even going up and down the stairs or like having to go to the basement to do laundry, it's been really rough because the fatigue like really hits you. Like I can maybe sit down on the couch, watch TV, and then like get up and do one thing. And after I do that one thing, I'm like, okay, that's it. My energy is maxed out. Like I need to take another break for a while before I can do another one thing. So that was, again, something that I kind of forgot about. Then the other thing that's obviously very common that a lot of people deal with in pregnancy is like the nausea. I had that from very early on in my pregnancy. Right now, I'd like to think like it's pretty much gone. But those first few weeks, it was really hard because, like, thankfully, I will say I haven't thrown up. I haven't projectile vomited, which has been nice because I know that there's some people that are so sick. And like, if you're one of those people that literally cannot leave the toilet the first few weeks and like maybe even into your pregnancy and you have to end up taking medication, like I am so sorry because that has to be so rough. But I was really nauseous, and just like at random times in the day, it would be like I'm not nauseous, then randomly it's like 4 o'clock and I get super nauseous. So I dealt with a bit of that, and that was not fun because, again, like it was kind of random, and like it would happen at times where like I'm doing something with the kids, or like I have to take the kids to co-op, or I have to, you know, be driving somewhere, and then it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm nauseous. So that wasn't very fun, and I know that that's a very unpleasant symptom of pregnancy. One really weird thing that happened to me this pregnancy that hasn't happened in any of my other pregnancies that actually really freaked me out the first like week or two that I was pregnant, because this happened in Panama City when I had just found out that I was pregnant. So I must have been what, like 5 weeks pregnant, or you know, like right when you miss your period, like initial symptom. I had some of the worst lower back pain of my life. Like when I tell you of my life, I mean of my life. And it was the weirdest thing. And again, that was one of those symptoms that I'm like, is it the flu? Is it pregnancy? Like, and it even got me really scared because I was like, is this a miscarriage? Because then I've read some, you know, then you go on Google and it's like, forget it. Like, it's either, it's totally normal, it's fine, you're fine, or hey, you're having a miscarriage. Like, it's either or. And you're just like traumatized and freaking out and you're like thinking the worst. So definitely Google is not your friend, especially in early pregnancy. But I had just the worst lower back pain. And I remember like sitting in church and literally being like, all right, God, like if this is not what you want from me, like help me to trust you, help me to trust your plan, because the pain was that bad where like I could barely move. I could barely get into Joe's car, and it was like a constant pain. And then because like they normally tell you, like, I don't know, like maybe they don't tell you, but I really try to not take any medications if I don't have to when I'm pregnant, especially so early, even though I ended up taking the freaking Tamiflu because the doctors freaked me out and they're like, you have the flu, you have to take Tamiflu. So I took that twice. I took 2 pills of Tamiflu and never again because it made me even more nauseous. But the lower back pain was intense. So I would have normally like taken Tylenol, and I actually ended up just trying to like deal with it, trying to cope with that pain. But it was really bad. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you guys, but it lasted like a good 2 days where it was just intense back pain. And there was nothing I could do to relieve it. And I don't know what the heck that was. Like, to this day, I don't know what that was. So if that happened to you, let me know, because it's kind of weird. But the other thing that I dealt with early on in this pregnancy, and this I'd say even I'm still experiencing now, okay? So I talked about being nauseous. Let's talk about constipation. Like, let's talk about the fact that a lot of times when you're pregnant, you can't poop. And like, I forgot about that. Like, I remember the being nauseous, but I did not remember like the whole concept of you need to poop and like you can't poop. And it's just so funny because I found myself so many times in this pregnancy, like just sitting on the couch and being like, when was the last time that I pooped? Like, was it like, it was like 5 days ago. Like, that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like, normally I'm pretty regular. And so, yeah, like there would be weeks where it'd been 5 days since I'd gone to the bathroom. And then all of a sudden, like I would maybe have the urge after that, but then like I couldn't. And then it was just like so frustrating for me because there were times where it was like, I was all of these things at once. Like I was hungry. I needed to use the bathroom. I was also nauseous, but I was also constipated. And that combination was not good. I was always so confused. I'm like I can't decide, like, do I eat? Do I not eat? Like, I kind of want to eat, but then like, I also want to poop, but I can't poop. Like, it was just like this whole thing of just not a good bathroom situation. So there was definitely that. Again, tell me I'm not alone, or I guess I'm the only one that has these issues. Then there was a little bit, not too much, like nothing crazy in terms of like aversions to smell, like nothing weird, but I think just like the normal things that I didn't want to be smelling, like my sourdough starter in the kitchen, could not stand the smell of the sourdough. So my poor little sourdough starter is like still sitting there on my oven and has barely been touched in a very long time because I don't like the smell of it. And that makes me sad because I like my bread, but I just haven't been able to use the sourdough starter. And then I'm trying to think of what else. Like, I didn't really want to look at raw meat because I didn't want to like think about cooking it. So I've definitely suffered in the kitchen, but nothing like random. Nothing like, oh, the smell of this candle made me nauseous. Just I think like the typical stuff. I haven't really had too many cravings either, which is kind of weird and kind of sad because I was hoping that I was going to have like an awesome craving and then be like, this is my excuse to be able to eat this all the time. I had a little bit of like, I really wanted some smoothies when I was down in Miami, so I went to Smoothie King. I think the only thing I really craved is eggs. I've been eating eggs like almost every morning, either like an omelet or a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. So I've had a lot of eggs this pregnancy, but again, nothing like crazy random. I actually, surprisingly, I did tell you guys this in a vlog and I wasn't lying. At the beginning of my pregnancy, I'm pretty sure I weighed 137 pounds. And then when I went for my, was it like my 12-week appointment, I weighed 132 pounds. So I had actually dropped weight since before I was pregnant. And I think a lot of it was because of the fact that I wasn't eating as much bread as I used to, because when I was baking and I was making sourdough and I was baking all the baked goods and spending time in the kitchen, I was eating it and I had actually gained a bit of weight. And then since I hadn't been doing the stuff in the kitchen, hadn't been baking the bread, hadn't been eating it, and so I actually dropped some weight. So I don't know, it's kind of weird, kind of random. I'm trying to think of like what else I can share with you in terms of those first trimester pregnancy symptoms. I had forgotten also the amount of like discharge that you would have like when you're pregnant. Like my underwear has been soaked. Like, I don't know a non-gross way to say that. Like the amount of stuff that comes out of you, it's like, wow, like my underwear is always wet. And so I'm pretty sure that's very healthy. Like when you look it up, they tell you that like there's a lot of stuff that's happening and your hormones, and like that's actually healthy for pregnancy. It's keeping away bacteria and all of that, but like a lot. So that hasn't been like the most fun thing either, because nobody wants to walk around with wet underwear. And especially like, it's not pee. It's not like I'm peeing myself. It's just like stuff that's coming out of me. So again, more fun stuff that you deal with when you're pregnancy. It's all a blessing. It's all great. It's still the most beautiful gift, but there's a lot of stuff you deal with that is maybe not the most fun and exciting stuff in the world. I just ordered myself a pregnancy pillow, you guys. I was hoping to get away. I don't even know why I thought that this would be possible, but I was really hoping to get away from a pregnancy pillow, because I remember with Jackson, the pregnancy pillow that I had, the day that I threw away that pregnancy pillow, or like gave it away, I don't even know what happened to it, but the day that I got rid of it was like one of the happiest days of my life. I was like, get this pillow away from me. I'm tired of this thing. It was literally huge, and I was just so over having to use that thing. So I was like, man, I really don't want to have to get one, but I needed to get one, because even now, like when I sleep, like they tell you, you don't want to sleep on your back, you want to sleep on your side. And it just wasn't working for me. I was very uncomfortable. Oh, that was the other thing about like sleeping. So I was doing the typical in the first trimester, the waking up multiple times at night and having to go pee, which was annoying because, you know, you're trying to get any last bit of sleep that you can. And then here's your body waking you up to go pee. So I definitely experienced some of that. And then I also had a few nights where I've had like insomnia. I wake up a million times. I can't go back to sleep. So I think that's a symptom that a lot of people report. And then I will tell you, there has been one time, which thank God it hasn't been more, but there was one time that I got really bad heartburn, and that was at my mom's house, and I don't know what caused it. I never get heartburn like in my life. That's not like a normal thing. I can like recall like maybe like in my life having heartburn like 3 times. Like it's not a common thing for me. It's not like I'm always having Tums. Not my thing. Like I have like, you know, stomach issues where maybe I have to do diarrhea or maybe something doesn't sit well with me. Like maybe that happens, but not like heartburn. And I had one of the worst cases of heartburn in my entire life at my mom's house, where it was just this like acidic burning in this area, and nothing I could do would stop it. Like I had to take some Tums, and then it would like calm down for a little bit. And then after like a night, it went away, thank God, because it was really bad. But I was like, I think that this is caused by pregnancy. Like you have to remember, when you get pregnant, your body just starts doing so many different things, and your hormone levels are adjusting, and like your intestines start to move and your organs are moving. Like there's a lot that happens when there's a child in there. And so it's just amazing like how the body works, but there's a lot of change. And so there's a lot of things that end up happening. So now that I've talked about like, I guess some of those like common things and some of the, I guess maybe more expected things, I will share a little bit about some of the scary stuff that happened in the beginning. So just like trigger warning, telling you a little bit about some bleeding and some scares that I had that I didn't have with my other pregnancies. So for me, they were a little bit just more concerning. They ended up being nothing terrible, but I'll tell you anyway. So I think it was at like 8 weeks. I was down in Miami. It must have been 7 or 8 weeks, maybe a little bit more than that, but early on in the pregnancy. I went to the bathroom one day, and when I wiped, I had like a little bit of like pink discharge on my toilet paper. That was obviously a little freaky, because like that didn't happen in my other pregnancies. I don't remember having any kind of bleeding or spotting. And I know that it's very common in early pregnancy to have some level of spotting. Like every time that I've spoken to like the nurse about spotting, like they always tell me like it's very normal. So it's not like an immediate freak out, the worst is happening. But, you know, it's something to keep an eye out. So I had that, and then I freaked out even more because along with the light pink discharge, I also had like headaches. I was having a lot of like migraines, even migraines with like aura, which I get from time to time, but usually they're hormonal. Usually they happen when I'm about to get my period. So I'm like, what does this mean? Does this mean that, you know, I'm losing the baby because I'm having these headaches, and is it like a hormone fluctuation and whatever, like my levels are gonna go down? So I kind of freaked out about that. And then it happened to me one more time, maybe around 11 or 12 weeks, because we were here back home. And the same thing, like I had just gone to the bathroom, I had just like pooped, and I had just like been straining myself in the toilet. But again, I had like some light pink discharge on the paper. And I think that time it was also a little bit more like red. It wasn't like as pink. And so that time I also like kind of freaked out, called them. It ended up being okay because it wasn't like a continued thing. But anytime that you have, you know, any kind of spotting or colored discharge when you're pregnant, it's very scary. So I tell you that just so you know, like it happened to me. In my case, it, you know, thankfully up until this point, it ended up not being anything. But every time that it happened, you know, I would call the nurse you know, that I have to practice and talk to them. And at least that way they were kind of able to tell me what was going on. Now the cause for the bleeding, I later discovered, I actually discovered this even before that happened. So backtrack, when I did my first ultrasound to check for the baby was, that was like at 6 weeks, where they did like the initial blood work, and then they wanted to see the baby in the ultrasound to confirm that it wasn't like an ectopic pregnancy, to confirm that the pregnancy was viable. And so they went in with the ultrasound. Ultrasound tech told me, you know, there is a baby, and they were able to see the heartbeat, because at that gestational age, or whatever they call it, at 6 weeks, some practices, I guess, like they don't listen for a heartbeat, but they can tell based on the ultrasound, like based on the picture, if there's like a little flicker, if there's a heartbeat. So even at 6 weeks, they were able to detect like this baby has a heartbeat. So that made me super happy, as you can imagine. That's like after I got that confirmation, that's when we told my parents when we went back to Miami. So after I had the ultrasound, they called me. I get a phone call from the nurse, and she's like, I just want you to know that you have a subchorionic hematoma, or I forgot what she called it. I think sometimes they call it a subchorionic hematoma, sometimes they call it like a subchorionic hemorrhage. I think hematoma was more the appropriate term, but regardless, it's some kind of like a bleed or some kind of pocket of blood. I don't know the full understanding of like what it is, but apparently it's something that happens quite frequently. Like it's not a super uncommon thing, and more times than not it ends up being like a benign thing that resolves on its own. Very rarely does it cause like serious issues, but it's still something to kind of watch and monitor. So I had this, and so the nurse told me, like, if you experience some kind of bleeding, it could be attributed to the hematoma. So I don't want you to freak out initially, like just call us, we'll have you monitor it, and it's likely going to be okay. So I had at least a little bit of that reassurance, like, hey, if I do see some blood, maybe it's from the hematoma. But it's still scary. Like, even though they tell you that, like, you still wipe and you see pink or you see red, and you're like, again, you think of the worst. So I think that's like a normal thing, a normal reaction when you're pregnant, because obviously you want everything to go okay. So I had the hematoma. Luckily, they did tell me that it was on the smaller side. So again, not super concerning, but still something that I wanted them to watch out for. So I actually went to have an ultrasound done at like 13 or 14 weeks, like just before I shared the news with you guys, because I wanted to wait for that ultrasound to finally share the news with you guys. And that is where they told me that it looked like the hematoma had pretty much resolved on its own. So that made me super happy. The ultrasound tech was like, yeah, I don't really see anything, so I'm pretty sure that it's cleared up. And then at that appointment, she also told me that I have an anterior placenta. So I can't remember that, like, what kind of placenta I had with Jackson or with Riley. So I can't really compare it. So given that they didn't tell me in the past, maybe I had the other kind of placenta, but this time around I have an anterior placenta, which means that the placenta is in front of the baby. And that's not like a bad thing, like, oh my God, like you have an anterior versus, forget the other one that you can have. It's just the position of the placenta. But the tech did say that one of the things that can happen because I have an anterior placenta is that it may take a little longer for me to feel like the baby kicks, because essentially like you've got the placenta and then you've got like my actual stomach. And so the placenta like kind of forms a barrier. So like if the baby's kicking, like it's harder for the belly to feel it. I'm sure that that's not a great visual representation, but it kind of can be a little bit harder to feel the baby kicking. So it might take longer, or you might just feel the kicking like on the sides. So that's something I didn't know about an anterior placenta. So we'll kind of just keep an eye on that and make sure that there's no issues. I did have them check at that ultrasound, the most recent one. I did have them check my cervix length, and that's one of the reasons why I pushed for this ultrasound anyway, because if I hadn't pushed for this ultrasound, you guys, they would have made me wait until my anatomy scan at 20 weeks, which I was like, how are you gonna make me go all this time without another ultrasound? Like, isn't it reasonable that as like a pregnant mom that you would want to see the baby, like not just at 6 weeks and then 20 weeks, like you would want to make sure that the baby's okay somewhere in between? Like, I don't know, to me, I feel like that's such a long amount of time. And that's that I have so many issues. Like, I have like a whole other video where I can just rant about prenatal care in general and just like the OBs and stuff and just like the treatment. I'll save that for another day because I can rant forever. But I was like, listen, I really want to check on my subchorionic hematoma. And then I also wanted them to check my cervical length, because if you followed me in Jackson's pregnancy, I had a short cervix. They had diagnosed me with the short cervix in Jackson's pregnancy. And if you're new to pregnancy, if this is your first pregnancy, something that can happen with a short cervix is you can be more at risk for short preterm labor. So there's always like a risk that your body can go into labor, the baby comes out earlier. That was like something that they always monitored me with Jackson's pregnancy. And ultimately, I think my cervix, I think at 20 weeks, my cervix was like 2.3 centimeters is what they measure it in, if I can remember correctly, because I think I tried to look this up before I went to my appointment so I could like share numbers with them. But it's supposed to be longer than that, basically. And so mine was short with Jackson's, and thankfully, we didn't end up needing any kind of intervention, because there are things that can be done if you have a short cervix. Sometimes they'll do like an actual stitch in your cervix. It's called a cerclage, I believe. And then that kind of keeps it in place so that you prevent that short-term preterm labor. And then you also can maybe take progesterone pills. Like I think sometimes doctors will prescribe progesterone to, you know, prevent your body from going into labor, or to, I guess, whatever it is that progesterone does to kind of maintain the pregnancy. The point is, like, it's something that is like, hey, let's be concerned about it, but a lot of times they can do something about it. So they didn't end up needing to do something about it with Jackson, but they really monitored it and made sure that it wasn't getting shorter and shorter, that it wasn't like putting him at risk. So I had a success story with Jackson in that my short cervix never caused something bad. But I wanted to make sure that with this pregnancy, we also kind of keep an eye on it, since I have the history. So this time, the tech told me that my cervix was measuring a 3 point something, which normally it's a little bit longer than that, but still not like in a range where it's like super concerning. So when I do go back to my anatomy scan, they'll continue to monitor that. And then at that time, I guess they can assess if something needs to be done. But I just wanted to like get ahead of it. And like, if she had measured my cervix now and it was even shorter, then maybe we could have done something earlier. So point is, like, advocate for yourself. Like, I know it's so hard when you go to these appointments and they're like, oh, here, the next time I'm going to see you is this, and this is the next test that has to be done. And like, sometimes you're just like, okay, like, you tell me what to do. But like, if you really have a gut feeling about something, or you're really not at ease with something, like, tell them and voice that and be like, I don't know, like, I feel like I would feel a lot better if we did this, or how about, is there anything we can do to try to take a look at this? Like, I think that's what they're supposed to do for you. They're supposed to care about you and provide you with that care. So then at my last appointment, again, which was like the 12-week appointment, which is like the big first appointment. Like, you have your first confirmation appointment, which was that time that I went really early on, did blood work to confirm my HCG levels, and then that ultrasound to see the baby, see the little flicker heartbeat. But then I went in again for like my 12-week like first real prenatal visit. And at that visit, that's when they did a whole bunch of blood work. They took a bunch of my blood. That's where they gave me the option of like doing all these like genetic testing things and stuff. So I forget which test they presented me with. There was a blood test that I consented to that was basically just like, I think they can detect Down syndrome with the test. And I told them, like, not that it's going to change anything. Like, if, you know, if that came back and it was positive, not that it's going to change my course of action, but I think I would like to know ahead of time, like, have some information so I can get the right resources that I would need. So I think I consented to that test. But I didn't consent to the one that was about finding out the gender, because if you're new here, we have opted to wait until birth to find out the gender. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully nobody spoils it for us, but we're going to try to not know the gender. So I opted out of that. And then I also opted out of one of the tests that was like to screen if you're a carrier for certain things. I don't even know exactly what they test for, but it's kind of like, are you a carrier for certain things that would affect the baby? And that's the kind of thing that if you've done it in one of your pregnancies, like, you don't have to repeat it. So given that this wasn't my first pregnancy, I've had those tests done and I was never a carrier for one of those things. So did it make sense to do it again? There's like all these tests, all these stuff. I know that they took out so much of my blood, and so far, you know, thank the Lord, everything has come back okay. Since I got that blood work done, I mean, they didn't call me. So I'm hoping that if they didn't call me, it means that there's nothing terrible. And then the last thing I remember that they did at that appointment is they did test me. Like they tested my cervix, or like, I don't know, they put like a stick up there somewhere and they tested me to see like if I had any kind of infection, because they said that maybe some of that bleeding that I had was because my cervix was somehow, what's it called? Somehow infected, or like your cervix is really sensitive. So a lot of times things like any kind of a yeast infection can cause you to bleed, or sometimes just sex in general will cause you to bleed. I haven't had that happen to me, so I know that it wasn't that. So I think that also came back negative because nobody called me. But yeah, that's kind of like an update on the pregnancy so far. And I mean, other than the few scares that I've had, it's been a pretty smooth, positive experience. And I've just tried to go into this pregnancy with just a lot more peace and a lot more trusting the process and trusting God that like his will be done. And like there's nothing that I can do if, God forbid, like we were to lose this baby. Like there's nothing that like I can do about it. Sometimes that just happens. And so I've been trying to just stay positive and enjoy it. And now that we've gotten to the point where I'm 15 weeks, I feel a lot better. I will feel a lot better when I go, I think I go in 2 weeks for just like a regular appointment, and we'll do the fetal heartbeat things where you can hear the baby's heartbeat. Looking forward to that. Obviously, like anytime that you hear your baby's heartbeat, it's just like such a beautiful feeling, and you're just like, oh, peace of mind, like everything's okay, because at this point you can't feel the baby yet, or most people can't feel the baby yet. So you're kind of like stuck in this like, I'm pretty sure everything's okay, but I can't confirm it. So I know some people get fetal Dopplers, the monitors for at home. I just haven't gone that route yet, because I feel like if I get it and then God forbid I can't find the heartbeat, I'm going to lose my SHIT and I'm going to freak out. So I don't know if it's going to do like more harm than good. If you guys have some insight into that, or you have one that you really like that you used, let me know. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. Mostly just being really tired. And I'm just trying to enjoy any pocket of energy that I have where I feel good to get some stuff done, because I've got plenty to do. The 2 kids keep me really busy, but at the same time allowing my body to rest and like feeling it. Like today my body was just like super, like my whole belly was like really tight, and I'm like, okay, I need to sit down because I don't need anything bad happening here. I need to take it easy, and I need to listen to my body and not go overboard. Like this is not the time to go overboard. Just kind of take a chill pill. All right, so here you go, really quick. Let me show you the belly. I'm trying to like tuck in my shirt so you can actually like see the belly, but it's kind of like hard to see, and my mirror is all dirty from my children. What the heck? It's like a giant circle. But anyway, this is what the belly is looking like at this point. I guess I'll just like lower it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have plenty of stretch marks with this pregnancy, just like I did with Jackson, but it's already like taking shape. It's already a bump. Like I officially had to go and get a few maternity pieces and a few like just bigger size pants, because I literally had no pants that would close, that would fit me. So I did have to do that, but I got them like on super sale at Old Navy. Like I paid $5.97 I think for the maternity jeans that I got. But it's like really, it's really hitting me right now, like with the body and just like feeling quite large. And at night it's like I get bigger than I do like in the morning. So there we go. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here so I can edit it and get this up for you guys tomorrow. Like this is a really quick turnaround video. But I hope that if you guys are pregnant, that you guys are doing great, and that you've had a smooth pregnancy. I know that every pregnancy is different, but I hope that for the most part everything's been okay. If you have any questions, or I missed anything, or there's like a symptom that you had that I didn't share, feel free, comment in the comments. Like again, I was blown away by how many of you guys said on my announcement video that you guys are also pregnant, and I'm just so excited, like alongside you guys, that that's also happening for you, and that like I have people to talk to about this, that I am not alone, that it's not just me sharing this, that I get to learn from you guys in the comments and read from what you guys are going through. You know, there's some of you guys that are ahead of me and are due earlier, and there's some of you guys that are like right behind me, so I'm sure that we can all benefit from our shared experiences in the comments. So feel free to do that, and that's it. I love your faces. I hope you guys will stick around if you're new, because we're gonna have plenty of fun stuff happening here. But thank you for being here. I love your faces. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.